Hello, everybody. I'm Valina Hasu Houston, and I am a writer and a professor at the University of Southern California. And I want to thank you so much for watching this screening of Gift of Fire, a film co-produced by 11 Arts, Inc. and NHK in Japan. And we are about to start the panel discussion. And on the panel will be Hiroshi Kurosaki, who is the writer, director, and editor of Gift of Fire, and Ko Mori, who is a producer of the film and also the CEO of 11 Arts, and Katie Peabody, who is an associate producer on the film. So, lady and gentlemen. Hello, everybody. So I thought we would start. Because the questions are so sort of intertwined, I thought I would present the questions and each of you could respond. And I also want to let the audience know that Yumi Kodama is our interpreter, and Mr. Kurosaki will be responding in both English and Japanese, and then Ms. Kodama will translate his Japanese into English as well to help us all out. So here we go. So the questions include, we'd love to hear what motivated you to create Gift of Fire, and then also the international meaning in it, as well as the key points that you'd like your audience to take away as they watch the film and begin to reflect upon it. So who would like to start?
Kurosaki-san, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Hiroshi Kurosaki. I'm joining from Japan now. First of all, Belina-san, thank you so much for inviting our film to this wonderful session. It's my great pleasure to be here. Shall I talk about just beginning of this project? About 13 years ago, when I was walking in a corner of a small library, I happened to find an old diary written by a young unknown scientist. He wrote about his experiments trying to make a chain reaction of nuclear fission. And he also wrote about pure love for his friends and family and foods and climate and etc. And his strong passion for science gave me a lot of inspiration. And so I decided to make this film. That's the beginning.
Yeah.
Great. So what about you, Ko?
Yeah, so I got the script from one of the, Kurosaki-san wrote through one of the NHK producers, who is actually a producer of the film, Hamano-san. And then that was about 4 years ago, I believe. And I read the script, and I actually didn't know anything about the Japanese people or the group of people, scientists that were developing the atomic bomb, or at least, were in the process of it. So I was quite shocked, but also at the same time, as I was reading the script, I thought that this story needs to be brought to the world, as I'm, basically based in Los Angeles, but I originally came from Japan. So this was a very, for me, and at least I felt that this was a really important story to be told. So that's why, I decided to proceed, with the story and the script.
So Katie, what about you? As when you first were introduced to the material, what did you think? What thoughts were generated, and what was important for you about the story?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, Faidan, I graduated from USC, so this is very fun to be back via Zoom, but yay. And as for Gift of Fire, when I first read the script, I was really taken right away by the sort of voice of the main character. I love his sort of contradictions. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders and this like very epic struggle between science, family, and country and morality. But he's also just a boy who likes a girl and who has a family and who wants to keep them safe, right? So I really loved his complexity. And I also just really loved the history of it. It was fascinating. I had no idea that this story really existed, and that Japan had been creating this atomic bomb at the same time. It just was so fascinating. So it was really, really a treat to work on.
I think that the film, the notion of the power of science and the interest in being a scientist and what that can do, particularly at this time period that's depicted in the story, that's very important. But there are a lot of other beautiful ideas that come to the fore about family relationships, romantic relationships, war versus science, success versus failure, and how one survives in the present day versus, how to look toward the future. So I wonder if any of you can speak to that in terms of, the takeaway that you'd love audiences to have after they see the film.
Actually, the one of the things that I really love, this story about is that, even though the story or the script, the story kind of brings up the fact that, Japanese scientists are developing the nuclear fission atomic bomb. However, actually, it focuses on the story of the young people who are, living through this time, the difficult time of the war. And it really shows their emotions and, their lives, rather than actually focusing heavily on our war side, but it's more like their lives. And, that was actually a pretty strong point for me to produce this film. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think about the moment, like when the family gives up their home, to the war effort. You're right. It's not the war itself, but it's the impact it has on this younger generation.
Yeah.
そう、あれ、ユミさん、お願いします。ポイントは、the main character, Shu, was not a mad scientist. He's very ordinary student. そこがユミさん、僕すごく大事だと思ってて、すごく普通の人が、一生懸命研究をしている、その結果が恐ろしいことにつながったかもしれない。ここがこの物語を書き始めた一番の理由かもしれないです。
Because the biggest reason he wrote this story, I guess it's a story, was that and also the biggest maybe takeaway he wants you guys to have is that, the main character was a very ordinary person. He was not a mad scientist at all, and he was an ordinary man. And just like Katie said, he loves girl and just an ordinary person. But then his what he did and what he was doing just ended up might have reached wrong kind of conclusion or consequence. But how he was, for Kurosaki-san, was the most important thing is he was an ordinary person. I think that's what he was emphasizing.
Yeah, the line in the middle of the story where when Shu is in a struggle in the laboratory with another Japanese man who says, "You are a poor excuse for a Japanese man." It made me think about, just as you say, this ordinary man struggled to define his masculinity at this particular time in history in Japan. It must have, I think, been very challenging.
And the choice not to go to war, the choice to choose science instead of going to fight. It's such an interesting, and then the parallel with his brother. It's so personal. All these, the story has these such small personal details that are so relevant and so relatable inside this epic historical moment. It's really great.
Yes, very much so. Well, we'd like to take questions from the audience, and we're going to look in the Q&A box to see what we have there. So, okay, here's a question. I'm a bit confused about the meaning of the last portion where Shu was seeing the what is it, the giant, when he's eating the giant rice ball, and then suddenly he runs down the mountain. So could you all talk about the meaning behind that so that our viewer can understand?
ユミさん、今の通訳してもらってもいいですか？
はい。ごめんなさいね。どっか行ってしまった。最後のところで、シュウが大きいおにぎりを食べていて、で、突然山を駆け下りていく場面がありますよね。で、そこが、消えちゃうな。そうですね、ここがどんな、意味を持つのかみたいなことをもし教えていただけるとっていう感じですかね。
わかりました。まずおにぎりは、お母さんが作ってくれたものだから、そのお母さんの気持ちであり、でその母親とか、自分を守ってくれてきた周りの人たちへの思いを感じ取る時間だったのかもしれないですね。それでおにぎりを食べてる長い時間のショットがありますけど、その間に彼はいろんなことを考えて、そして最後に決断しました。それはマッドサイエンティストと、それから普通の正しい人間の境界線に彼はいたんだと思いますけど、その普通の人間の方に戻っていくっていうことを意味していたのかなと思っています。
なるほど。Should I translate it, or one of you guys want to say something first?
You should translate it for the audience.
Okay. Okay. So he's saying, anyway. So he's saying that, so the rice ball kind of symbolizes first of all, symbolizes his mother's kind of feelings and love probably. But so also kind of while he was eating rice ball, he was feeling this other people who has been protecting him. So the feeling of those people. And then, so while he's eating, he was kind of thinking about and feeling it. And then finally he made a decision because while he was kind of feeling the feelings and thinking about it, so he was kind of in the border between kind of a mad scientist or human. So he was in the kind of, a cross line. And so he kind of finally made a decision probably just before down the mountain, running down the mountain. And so he made a decision to kind of go to this human side rather than going toward kind of mad scientist side.
Very good. Very good.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that rice was difficult to come by as well. Is that true, Ko?
You mean back then during the time? Yes and no. I mean, but this particular story, people say that it was difficult to get rice, back in the day. However, certain people were able to, get some rice. So that was the point where that Hiroshi wanted to bring, that since it's during the wartime, generally speaking, even for Japanese, people think that it was very, the things are very hard to get and, things are poor. But, also at the same time, and some people are having some life where that, they could get certain things like rice too. So I think Hiroshi wanted to kind of bring the natural side of what was really happening back then. That was sort of part of it, and it shows that too.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up.
Maybe the mother, sorry, maybe the mother staged the very precious rice for her sons for that moment.
Yes. Yes, and I will add, you know, that my mother was living in the country and was a teenager during World War II, and she often would tell me that people in the cities could get rice much more easily than the people in the country, and the people in the countryside actually sometimes resorted to eating a lot of potatoes. Rice was very hard to come by, and they often ate roasted locusts because there wasn't enough food in the countryside.
Right.
So you know, I mean, certainly in the United States, we don't understand this level of kind of war. I mean, they may have in the Civil War, but we certainly don't in present day. So this next question, I think, will probably elicit a different answer from each of you, but one of the viewers would like to know what your favorite scene is and why you like that particular scene.
I see. Cool. Katie, do you want to start with this?
No. Not at all. I don't know. I have to think about it. Someone else has to go first.
森さん、これって好きなシーンの話。
そうです。
なるほど。もう森さん始めてもらえますか。
So yes, I actually I have actually two scenes that I like. I'll go quick. One, the beach scene where Hiroyuki goes to the ocean and Shu saves him. I like that scene because it was actually probably the toughest shoot throughout the production, and there was a lot of discussions and a lot of like rehearsals, and some dramas there too. So that was actually the big, it became a pretty good memory of us that were being on set. So, it's kind of like a different reason, but I really like that scene. However, I think, for the story, I like the scene where the three of them, Setsu, Shu, and Hiroyuki get together on the porch of the house, where that they discuss about the future and stuff, that I really like because somehow I really like the Setsu character where she has a different vision, for the story, where that she is the only one who are looking at the future, whereas that like the strongly, whereas that the boys are more gotten into the war situation and they couldn't really clearly have that vision of the future after the war. So that actually that's my favorite scene.
Would someone else like to share a scene, or shall I go on to the next question? Okay. We now have three questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
ユミさんお願いします。僕はね、主人公のシュウが荒勝プロフェッサーに、僕は山に登って爆発の瞬間を見たいっていうシーンのことについて話したいんですよ。彼は、静かに話すんですけども、明らかに彼の目が狂ってるんですよね。で、それは俳優が柳楽優弥さんがそれを演じたんだけど、彼はそれを演じた後で瞬きすることを忘れてました僕って僕に言いました。彼は多分長いカットの中で一度も瞬きをしてないんですよね。それを忘れちゃってた。それぐらい狂った男を演じてくれたんですね。そのことをみんなに聞いてもらいたかったです。
なるほど。Okay. So his favorite scene is the when Shu was talking to the professor about he wants to go up to mountain to observe the the possible atomic bomb coming to Kyoto. And so the Kurosaki sensei is saying that, so the actor, so he was, while he was acting that scene, actually he told Kurosaki-san that he actually forgot to blink. So I think that scene actually disconnect to the previous kind of thing we talked about. So she was already at that time becoming kind of the mad scientist part. So when she was saying to professor he wants to observe that, he was kind of stepping into this mad scientist side. And so that's kind of the actors, doing, I think, good job. So I think that's why the Kurosaki sensei is really the favorite scene is that.
Very good. Thank you.
I love the scene that Ko talked about too, with the three of them talking about the future. But I also, independent of specific scene, I really love the section of the film that takes place in the lab. Just in general, I think it's really exciting to be able to see what that world would have looked like. And it was impressive to me the amount of research that the team put into creating a lot of these historical elements. The equations and the centrifuge and like all of these things were very, very researched. And it was really delightful to learn, what these historians and scientists had brought to the table when they were creating them, and then see them brought to life to tell the story. It was really exciting.
それユミさん、そのね、遠心分離機セントリフュージについては設計図だけがリアルな設計図が残ってたんですよ。それを僕たちは見つけたんですね。でも実際に彼らがこの映画のようにプロトタイプを作れたかどうかは分かっていないんです。それは僕たちのフィクションかもしれない。でも設計図だけは残ってました。で、実際に彼らはセントリフュージを作りましたけども、今世界中で、核爆弾を作っている国はみんな同じシステムを使ってます。同じ原理に基づいた。
Okay, so he was saying that, the Kurosaki is saying that, so they found this blueprint of this centrifuge. It's really specific terminology, but the centrifuge. But they found a blueprint, but they actually don't know those, the scientists actually had managed to, make it. But at least they did find this blueprint. And also currently right now in the world, a lot of country has this weapon, unfortunately, but they still do use the same kind of prototype.
Very good. One of the viewers has asked if the incidents that are told in the story are true, and mentions that that I don't know if it's he or she, but that the viewer is aware that Japanese scientists did try to make a bomb and read that the project failed for lack of uranium. So they want to know if the pictures at the end of the film were the real people behind the story.
ユミさん、ちょっとお願いできますか?
Hi, actually, which question is that? I'm sorry.
This is a new question. A viewer wants to know if the incidents in the story are true and if the pictures at the end of the film are of the real people behind the story.
Okay. 最後に実際の写真が出てきますね、黒白の。あれは全部本物というか、彼らの写真なんでしょうか?
そうです、そうです。Yes, yes. All of them are true picture.
Okay. Now, the rice. Let's go back to the rice ball eating scene. It's generated another question, which is, one of the viewers said that they loved that it was a continuous shot, and they wanted to know if that was something that was written into the script, that it would be a continuous shot, or was that something that the DP developed on the spot? How did that come about?
That's a Hiroshi question for sure.
そしてなんかすごく 専門用語が
長いショットですよね。
はい、そうですね。
So,
が、はいはい。
それの狙いってことですかね。
そう、まあ、あれがね、脚本に書いてあったのかどうかっていう。
なるほど、なるほど。長いショットとは書いてないですけど、おにぎりを食べるとだけ脚本に書いてました。で、あとは実際に、俳優と、山に登っておにぎりを食べたときに、実際にどんな感情が起きるかっていうことをドキュメンタリーのように撮ろうというふうに思ってました。で、実際に彼はただ食べて、いつの間にか涙が出てきたですね。それはその現場で起こったことでした。
So in the script, it was just saying eating the rice ball. So they kind of decided to actually go there and just see how it goes. So they just went to the mountain and the actor was eating. So while he was eating, it just naturally this just tear came down. So it's just kind of like a natural scenes.
Great. So there's a question about the scenes in the film when the balls are falling, the atoms, and in the early part of the film, we see many, many falling, and later we just see a few. And the viewer would like to know what these scenes mean, what you want these scenes to convey.
Is that silver balls you're talking about?
Yes, yes, the silver balls.
どうやって、ユミさん難しいですね。どうやってその原子核分裂を、原子核分裂で目で見えないからどうやってビジュアル化しようかってたくさん考えました。で、その結果一番シンプルな物理現象ですね。一番シンプルな物理現象、物が落下するっていうこと、それを使って表現しようと思いました。
Okay. So they really they had a hard time to think about like how they can visualize this 原子核分裂が英語がわからない。
Nuclear fission. Yeah, nuclear fission.
Nuclear fission. Okay, so how to visualize that, and so they ended up the conclusion of how about the simplest physical kind of phenomena, which is just dropping, the stuff is dropping because of gravity. So that's why they use that.
Well, I mean, I think the images are quite beautiful. So I think that's a great question. One of the viewers has asked about the story of the film and whether or not it justifies the U.S. bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they want to know how you would respond to that. You know, if audiences see a film and they say, oh, well, Japan was trying to develop an atomic bomb too that might have been dropped on America. So how do you respond to that kind of tension?
黒崎先生、大丈夫ですか？
はい、大丈夫です。一番 most difficult question.
Difficult question.
Yeah. So after me, Ko-san, please assist me. But first of all, I'd like you to receive this movie not as a winner-loser story, but just a universal human story. そうなんか何も正当化しないし何が間違ってるかと決めつける映画でもないただなんか考えるきっかけになってほしいと思って作りました。まず
Okay, so this movie is made not for justifying anything. It's more like not suggesting, I suppose. He's hoping that this movie could trigger you guys, you know, to think about it, think about the problem and just think about it, not really justifying and try not to try to say, well, this is right and this is wrong. And yeah.
but more the struggle of the individual in this
Yeah, I
situation.
don't. Yeah, we you know we don't take any side. We don't really tell the story from one side or the other. It's just that we wanted to basically the Japan that was kind of trying to develop the atomic bomb, that story itself was true, but also at the same time, it was also true. All of us know that, the US came up with the atomic bomb and the bombs are dropped. Those are true too. So, we didn't really, we try to be very neutral, on those things, but try to tell the story of the people who are living through that time, so I think that might be the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I found that that's the focus too, because I think that there is the backdrop of the war and all those tensions and the global tensions, but at the same time, it's a story of these young people, a story of these human beings, and I tend to focus on. I look at them going.
They have no control over the situations, they just have to deal with the things in front of them. So. Yeah.
Absolutely.
この映画の中でね、ごめんなさい、この映画の中で、広島の、破壊された広島のビジョンを見せたじゃないですか。あれは実際の広島の、写真をもとに、VFX を使って作った映像なんです。だからあれは実際の広島なんですね。で、それが、この結論のすべてだと思います。何が起きたかっていうこと、それをもって正しかったか間違っていたかを考えてもらえればと思ってます。
Okay, so in the movie, there's a scene of Hiroshima city. It's like distracted, under huge distraction. Hiroshima city's pictures, but so they actually used authentic ones, so it was actually what happened and how it looked like. So and that vision is actually the conclusion, the reality. So by looking those reality, he wants you guys to think about, okay, so anyone to think about, so that was right or not. That's kind of up to you.
Well, we're going to go from a very challenging question to some somewhat easier, relatively easier questions about language. So one of the viewers wanted to know, the viewer liked the subtitles and wanted to know who did the subtitles, because that name wasn't in the credits.
It's mainly done by the person with the 11 arts. Her name is Atsuko Tsuji. Yeah, she's actually in Los Angeles, and she's that's what she does, So she's great, very professional. But it's also she led the process, but actually 11 arts we worked on the whole sort of there were many inputs from everybody in the office, and we created one, but mainly came from Atsuko.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to have, absolutely, thank you. I mean, we're going to have time for one more question, so I want to honor the other part of the language question, which was the diary that appears. One of the viewers wants to know if there is an English translation of that diary.
If there was any English translation of that diary, is that the question?
Well, probably not at that time, but right, I think if one exists today.
今それがトランスレーションが残ってるか。
英語ではない。
そう、僕もほんのその断片を見つけただけなんですね。まだその全体は見つかってない。今探してます。
Oh, so actually the Kurosaki-san found only a piece of it, not the whole diary. So he's looking for the rest of the diary.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you all for taking part in the Q&A. I want to thank all the viewers for watching the film and for providing us with questions. And again, congratulations to all of the filmmakers for this wonderful movie.
Thank you, Belina. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us.